Hello, I'm James Woodcock from pixelrefresh.com for the Game and Gadget podcast. And I have with me my co-host, Tony Warriner, one of the co-founders of Revolution Software, who's recently been on a panel of esteemed colleagues and people from other developers and publishers. And from what I hear, it went very well, Tony. So welcome back to the Game and Gadget podcast.
Thank you very much.
So you're going to be on another panel soon.
Yep. Well, anyone who remembers the 8-bit days will recall how there was like two distinct pillars, and you were one or the other. And one was Commodore, and one was Spectrum. And if you were a Commodore fan, you read Zap 64 magazine from Newsfield Publications, and if you were on the other side, the Specky side, you read Crash magazine from the same people, and it was kind of the same mag, but two halves, you know. I read both because I thought both magazines were good. I was more on the Spectrum side, but I read both magazines. So yeah, they invited me to the Zap. They have a Zap show, and which was August. Seems a long time ago now. It wasn't really 6 weeks ago. And they have another one in November for the Crash side of things, which I'm also going to be at along with Charles. So the Zap one, I was like, why are you inviting me? I didn't do anything for the Commodore 64. But they kind of merged it. They kind of expanded it a bit to include the Amiga. And of course, they did write a couple of Amiga games. So I was valid for that, which was good. The next one, of course, I did write some Specky games. As did Charles Cecil. So they're gonna put the two of us together and do another panel thing. So me and Charles, that'd be good fun.
Fantastic. Well, I will certainly be there.
That's quite a turn up, really, isn't it? Me and Charles on a panel.
I know. And I would have gone to the last one, but I'm full enough. I just happened to be on holiday in Wales for that weekend, so I missed it because I was on holiday. These darn holidays get in the way. But anyway, so I'll be looking forward to seeing you at the next one. And of course, Charles Cecil.
Yeah.
Of Revolution Software, so there should be some good stories there. And do you ever fear the questions that are thrown your way? What was the sort of question that came your way to the previous one in August?
I can't remember. I can't remember anything about it. You know what these things are like. I just instantly forget anything about it.
It's not because of any evening festivities, then.
No, I went home. I wasn't staying. I think I'm staying for this one, so that might be a good evening. But what did they ask me? I don't know. Some stuff about Revolution. Can't remember.
Well, it makes sense to ask you about Revolution Software, or of course to buy Tony's book, which is still available. So certainly recommend that to anyone who's interested in the history of Revolution Software, and of course Tony himself. But it's also funny, you've created a very nice transition for me, Tony, that you should mention, like there were these two Commodore and the ZX Spectrum, but there was kind of a third one, which was a little bit late to the party, and it was the Acorn Electron.
Oh, very nice, yeah.
So that same weekend while you were doing your panel, I was in Wales, and my wife made the mistake of saying, why don't you look on Facebook Marketplace and see what's in the area? And I hadn't even thought about that. So I thought, okay, I'll have a little look. And I was just generally looking for anything. It wasn't specific. It was just electronics. And there was literally this Acorn Electron with no price. And I thought, it was open to offers. So I ridiculously said, £20, thinking he was going to just refuse me instantly or ignore it. He accepted. So very quickly, at the speed of lightning, I travelled to this gentleman's house, a very pleasant gentleman, and he came to the front door with this Acorn Electron in his hands, cradled, I would say. And he kind of muttered fairly quietly, I don't really want to let this go, you know. So I don't know if he was encouraged or coerced or what, or he just had to make space. But I said, well, words to this effect, don't worry, I am going to look after this. I'm not going to sell it. I want to restore it. And certainly, once I did pry it out of his hands, it was extremely filthy. There was like this layer of black all over it.
All right.
And if you visited pixelrefresh.com, I did an article on this with a load of photos. But it was just like this layer of black all over the keys and the top and the sides. So maybe it was stored in a garage or something like that, but not in a box or anything. So I passed over him with £20 and thanked him and ran as fast as I could before he changed his mind. But it's a beautiful machine, and now I've cleaned it up, which involved opening it up, taking all the key caps off, cleaning each individual keycap. It's come up beautiful. And it even included the accessory which you plug in the back, because there's no joystick ports on this thing. So you literally have to use the expansion port on the back to even add a joystick port. Because I think a lot of the games just use the keyboard.
That's why it was cheap.
Well, there's cheap and there's cheap. But anyway, there was this accessory and it provided just a joystick port. And apparently they're fairly rare as well and is actually worth a little bit of money. But the Acorn Electron story is they wanted to compete with the ZX Spectrum directly. And of course, previous to that, Acorn was the BBC Micro. It was in tons and tons of schools in the UK, in some homes. But in terms of the home market, if you wanted a gaming machine for the cheap, it was probably the ZX Spectrum. And a little higher up, you'd go for the Commodore 64. So they wanted something to compete. And the Acorn Electron was it. Originally destined for around £120, £150, which was around the ZX Spectrum ballpark, depending on which memory configuration you got. But it was a year late. And it ended up releasing for £199 instead, which kind of scuppered its chances a little bit. But it did sell fairly well, but certainly not in the leagues of its competitors.
Fairly well, I think. I mean, there was a lot of machines that never quite made it, and they were too late. I mean, there was the Dragon 32, and there was things like that. I had the Lynx, which fared even worse. The Enterprise, my dream machine that came too late. I mean, the only real third machine, in truth, was the Amstrad CPC. I mean, it put on a strong performance for a bit, but then all of these machines eventually hit the 16-bit buffer, and that did for them all in the end. But I mean, I remember the Electron because my friend had one. But I mean, we all played BBC Micro at lunchtime at school, so it was the same thing. It was just cut down a little bit here and there and repackaged. But yeah, I mean, they were a serious machine. You could do a lot with them, They were good. I mean, I never knew anybody who had a BBC Micro at home. Someone told me how many they made. It's quite a lot. It's like millions of them, I don't know where they all went, but a friend of mine who worked at Aconsoft claimed there was millions of BBC Micros made. I don't know how many Electrons. Have you looked it up?
Let's have a quick look. So Acorn Electron's estimated around 200,000 to 250,000 machines sold, but that doesn't mean how many actually made and produced, because I think a lot sat in a warehouse for a long time.
Probably about that. So yeah, not many then. What about BBC Micro, does it say? I'm sure I've got this figure 15 million in my head, but that can't be 15 million, can there?
Well, let's have a little look-see.
Either 3 million or 15 million BBC Micros.
So the BBC Micro in total sold 1.5 million.
Okay. Which wasn't bad.
Not at all. Not at all. And computers back then, I think we forget. We look at computers now as the comparison, which is completely wrong. Everyone pretty much has a computer of some sort in their home. Be almost unimaginable. Granted, we've got mobile phones now and tablets, which kind of negates it a little bit. But still, a lot of people have computers in the home. But back then, it was still very much a hobbyist thing. And the whole point of the drive with the BBC Micro was to make the UK a computing force and to teach youngsters all about computers. And that would filter through to the adults as well. But the 8-bit was an exciting time. I certainly remember the BBC Micro at school and the giant, was it 5.25-inch floppy disks when they actually were floppy?
Yeah, the 5 1/4s.
Yeah.
I mean, in my day, they had them at school, but they didn't know anything about them. So we found one. Famously, we found one in a cupboard. It was a stationary cupboard in the tech design department, and we just used to go in there and play on it on lunchtime in a dark. It was literally pitch black, a darkened room. The only light was the green of the monitor from this BBC Micro. We'd eat our crappy sandwiches we'd brought from home and play on this BBC Micro. Yeah, that was the only productive thing about school, really, playing on that computer.
Well,
but yeah, BBC Micro, great machine. I mean,
definitely.
Of course, it spawned the game Elite, which is one of the best games ever written.
It did indeed. I mean, the BBC Micro is probably partly responsible for my interest in computers and retro now. I mean, I don't own one. It's such a big thing to store. I mean, I've got an Amiga A500 behind me, and that's quite a big thing. I've only just started collecting retro computers because originally I started with consoles because I thought, well, they're fairly compact things. They're easy just to pull out and put away and put on display. But I blame Reese from Control Alt Reese in a nice way, of course, because he came on the last podcast and was talking about Atari STs, and I thought, I ain't got any retro computers, not really. I've got a Windows 98 machine, but truly retro, I had none. And then I came across the Electron for 20 quid, thank you very much. And then the Atari ST for a little bit more than that, thank you very much. The Amiga for quite a bit more than that, thank you very much. And then I've also got an Acorn Archimedes A3010, which is something I owned back originally in 1994 and sadly got rid of. And they're going for stupid prices, but I found this, again, a very nice gentleman who understood I was going to keep it and not give it away at any point. It was to have as part of my collection and to use and enjoy. And he gave me a good price, bless him. And we've become quite friendly in chatting and sharing ideas, and he's kind of building up his collection. But like me, retro computers are quite a big thing to store.
Yeah. I mean, I've got quite a lot, but they're all. I mean, they were all sat in a loft in York, and I've moved some of them recently to the lockup unit we have, storage unit we have. The books were in. So as the books come out, retro computers go into the space. So I can't get my hands on them, but I do. I've had a good look at them all recently. There is a BBC Micro in there.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, there's a BBC Micro, which should work, I think. I don't have an Electron. I have an eBay search set up for an Electron, but I want one in a box. Box ones are harder to get. Don't see many of those. I don't think I've ever seen one on my eBay searches, or at least one that was priced sensibly. So yeah, I mean the problem is there's hundreds of these things. I got what else have I got? I got a boxed Enterprise. That's a nice thing to have.
Yeah, definitely.
I have an Auric Atmos. I'd like an Auric 1 in a box. Dragon 32 in a box. I haven't got one of those. There's loads. MSX. If you look at MSX, there's literally dozens of those anyway. So if you start collecting MSXs, then that's like a whole other dimension starts opening up. You know.
Let me just cover my ears. I've already bought 4 computers recently. No, 5.
Yeah.
So no.
Sam Coupe. I'd like one of those. That was a nice little machine.
Sam Coupe. I've not heard of that one.
You don't see many of them. I mean, Jupiter Ace was the one. Blimey, I wish I'd bought a Jupiter Ace when they were cheap, because they're like 1,500 quid now. 1,500 quid.
But that's it, because there was when they come out, and then they're selling them off cheap as the sort of the next generation of technology comes along, and then gradually the price goes up.
They were absolutely worthless, these things, and now they're going. I mean, they've gone up a lot in the last few years. Much harder to buy, but they're not going to go down, you know.
No, not really.
Well, you wouldn't have thought so, unless there's like an apocalypse or something.
There's this weird thing on YouTube where it seems to be American videos in particular where they're going from retro shop to shop, and they're going, "Oh, look, we found this $1,500 rare game. Buy, sell." I'm thinking it's kind of taking the fun out of retro, because that's the commercial side of retro. Now, I'm a collector, but I'm literally collecting to build a collection. I'm not one of those who needs every game for every platform that's been released. I'm not looking for that gold mint cover or whatever the heck it is. But when you watch these YouTube channels, you can imagine it's spurring a certain set of people to get excited about the value of something rather than the thing itself. Now, I'm far more interested in the thing itself than the value of the thing. If it's worth a lot, then great, that's a bonus, but it's not going to benefit me because I'm not going to sell it. I like a bargain, but that's different.
Bargains are good, but it's what it is that really counts. Yeah.
Exactly that. And this Acorn Electron actually works, which blew me away even more.
Yeah, that's good.
And ironically, the cable for it nearly cost as much as the thing itself.
Yeah, that's the thing, the cables. I've got all these computers and I don't have cables for most of them because they've just got lost in a big ball of cables. Cables are a problem. And then you need you got to decide how you're going to display the screen because most of them just got TV output on them.
Yeah.
So you got that problem as well.
Amazingly, the Electron has RGB out.
Is it really?
Yeah. So if you've got the right cable, which I do have now, it supports RGB, which is awesome.
That's useful, yeah. I'm surprised, actually.
So what's your favourite 8-bit computer, if you had to choose one?
Well, the dream machine was the Enterprise.
So tell me about the Enterprise. How did that come about for your story?
Well, I mean, I never had one, but in the day, but it was talked about for a long time, and it just looked better than anything else. It looked really cool, and its spec was spec'd pretty high. It had lots of graphic modes and lots of memory, and it was kind of, if you're a bunch of kids going, what's our dream computer, and what's our fantasy 8-bit computer, and you come up with a spec and you might draw a picture of it. I mean, the Enterprise was it. It just looked so good, and the specs were great. I mean, we were really excited about them. And then, the hype. There was a lot of hype for it, but it was kind of late. It kept being delayed, and it was already too late, I suppose, when it did. And then it eventually came out, and then literally 6 months later, it was dead and gone. And it was. I can't remember the price now, but it was kind of a bit more expensive than it might have been, but probably worth it. But it was just too late because the 16-bit was on the horizon. So I never had one because I didn't have any money. I was just a kid. I didn't have any money to spend, really.
Indeed.
Because they weren't that expensive relatively. They were kind of cheap Android phone money, really. They weren't impossible dreams to have these machines. If you were an adult with a job, you could probably buy all of them, But obviously now, when you start going back to catch up, they're a bit more difficult, especially if you want the boxes. You see, I like to have the boxes, but that makes it a lot more expensive. But I have a Spectrum in a box. I have a ZX81 in a box. But you can get new boxes because the boxes are always ragged, but you can actually get new ones. There's a company makes them.
Is that the same though for you? I mean, would you get the same kind of thrill out of a non-original, but even though it's the original packaging as in terms of what's printed on the box, would it still get the same kick for you?
Well, if you buy a machine, like your Electron, then you should buy a box and poly inserts for it, and then put it in the box, and then you've not lost anything, have you? The problem comes if you've got a machine with a crappy box, like a knackered box, but still a box. It's like you take it out of the box and you put it in the new box. Then what do you do? What do you do with the old box? Because it's like it is the original box, and it might be crappy and rubbish and scuffed up and ripped and all the rest of it. But do you really throw it away? I mean, for me, it'd be impossible to throw it away. So you've still got
two boxes.
Box. You got two boxes. It's a real problem, isn't it? It's like really, then you should buy another computer to put in the old box. Then you've got two of the same computer, and an immaculate one and another one in a scabby box.
That'd be a warning to everyone. Basically, if you're going to be a retro collector, you need a very sympathetic partner.
It's kind of madness, really.
It does become a. How many cables do you have? Let's chuck some cables away. Oh, let's buy another 3 or 4 cables to replace the cables you've chucked away. Let's have a box. Let's have a storage unit. Let's have a glass cabinet to put them on display. Let's have a desk to put them on so you can enjoy the Amiga. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And it's tremendous fun, the amount of time you can just spend. It depends on your personality. I mean, I love buying something and researching about it and seeing what you can do with it. And that's as much fun as actually just using the thing. So the Amiga behind me, the A500, has actually got a Raspberry Pi in it.
Really?
Yeah. So you replace the CPU, the Motorola 68000, you take that out, you put in this board called the PiStorm, and then the Raspberry Pi sits on top of that, and then that becomes the CPU. So then your CPU is stupid fast.
Right.
Stupid fast. But you're still using all the other Amiga chips. So all the custom chips on the Amiga are still used for the sound and the graphics. So it still feels very authentic. The only difference is everything's running faster in terms of what would use the CPU specifically. Which is great because that's just like faster loading times, faster transitions. And when you're particularly in Workbench and things, it's just nicer.
Right. I'm amazed that works, actually, but I can't even imagine how they got that to work.
It's an amazing thing. The Amiga enthusiast groups, they are wonderfully insane. The Amiga fans, what they've done with Amiga, I mean, not just recently, I'm talking over many years with expansion boards to improve performance like the Vampires and stuff. I mean, I've only just literally within the last few months got into the Amiga world myself. My best friend of the time, the era when the Amiga was a thing, had the A600, which was like the smaller version of it, which was meant to be called the A300, but that's another story. So that was my only access to an Amiga because I was the kid with the Acorn Archimedes. I was the right oddball. And then I had other friends who had the Atari ST. Thank you. I still am. And then there were other friends with the Atari ST. So I got to experience the Atari ST, but I never owned either one of those until recently. And I own both. So it felt very odd not to have the Acorn again. It felt like I was giving up on what was my main computer of the time. So I had to get one somehow.
Yeah. I should have an Atari ST, but I haven't got it because I definitely had one. Because it was my Atari ST that we did the Temptress on, but I don't know where it's gone. I haven't got it now.
I'm sure it's not just lurking in a cupboard or a corner somewhere.
No, it's gone. Don't know where it is. Which is a shame. So I'll have to buy another one of those at some point.
With the original box.
Yeah. Yeah.
But which one would you go for? Because there's like 15 bajillion Atari ST variations.
Is there? I can't. I remember there was a 520, wasn't there?
There's the original 520 with an external floppy drive. Then there's the 520 FM, which is the one I've got, which has got the built-in floppy drive and FM modulator. I don't care about the FM modulator. I use the RGB out. But still, it's got the built-in floppy disk drive. And then there's the 1040, which has just got basically more memory in it. And then that's got different variations. And the STE, which is the enhanced version. Then there's the Falcon, which is like the all-powerful, more rare, not much specifically for it, I don't think.
No, I don't even remember that.
Yeah. It was
you say there was a gajillion versions, but it was actually a much simpler machine to deal with from a programming point of view because you just, they were all pretty much the same, I think. See, the problem with the Amiga now is you got all the different chipset variations. And we had a lot of problems doing the Revolution games because of the chipsets being different. I mean, there's a comment in the code which I think I printed in the book of what we put in there for people to find, saying, and I was talking about how we had so many problems with the different chipsets. I think now, is it AGA? Is it called AGA?
If you've got the A1200, it's got AGA.
Yeah, I think if
you're
going to write
stuff.
If you're going to write a game for it now, I think you just go AGA.
No, because that would discount mine then.
Too bad. I think that's what people do. I don't know. I need to look. I bought Cyberpunk 2 from Adrian recently. I had to look at and see what it plays on. But yeah, I can't remember the details. I remember it being a real pain back in the Revolution days, the Amiga with its different chipsets, because the memory was all different, and that was a real problem for us. That's what really made life difficult. The memory layout, I think, if I remember correctly. But yeah, I'm like, yeah, I've been looking at the Amiga recently. I mean, I obviously don't know much about it, even though I did know a lot about it in the past. I need to get up to speed because I quite fancy doing something for it. I don't know what. I mean, you can make an Amiga game and do okay off it these days. You know, you just about. So it's almost a valid machine again, which is really good to see. I mean, of all of them, it probably is the only one that's truly alive. You know, I mean, you can write a Spectrum game and you can write a Commodore 64 game, and I mean, I guess you'll sell a few, but I think Amiga is like really quite good. You know, as is the Dreamcast.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, the Amiga's kept relevant just by all the upgrades you can add to it, but there's no reason not to have the base model supported. Like if you released a game for the A500 that had no additional modifications, I'm sure it's still doing very well. And of course, the emulation's really good as well.
Yeah.
Dreamcast is a harder sell for emulation, so you'd have to have the real hardware, really.
Yeah, but they're 10 a penny, aren't they?
They are indeed at the moment.
I've got three of them.
Until people realise what you can do with the Dreamcast and how amazing that little console is.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it's not cheap anymore.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them about there. That's the thing. I mean, they made a lot of Dreamcasts, so I think. I mean, now is the time to buy one, but they're not too bad. I think. But Amiga, yeah. I mean, you can buy a whole new Amiga. That's the thing, isn't it? You can buy a little box. I was looking on a website. There's someone selling a little box, and it is an Amiga in a little thing. It'll do Amiga stuff.
Oh, the little mini one.
I've got a mini one. Yeah, I got one of those. Yeah.
In the original box?
Yeah, definitely in its box. Yeah, it should be. I've only had it 6 months, but yeah, they're quite nice. But I quite like the idea of a little one in a tiny little case. Look quite cool.
So, I have the Atari 520 STFM, and that's one you've not maybe that specific one, but certainly, like you say, if you've got an ST, they're virtually all the same except for the different memory configurations and if it's got internal and external floppy disk drive. And I think an Amiga fan will always knock the Atari ST for, seemingly, it will be its sound. And to be fair, the sound on the Atari ST is not that good considering. I mean,
it's not as good as the Amiga.
No, not by any shot. I mean, it's mostly bips and boops where the Amiga can actually do proper sampled mod music and all sorts. But the Commodore 64 had, I think the SID chip was a little bit more powerful than what the ST does, which is a shame. But it's a lovely computer. The keyboard I like as well. And I had, when I got this one, I had to clean it up a lot, and the floppy disk drive wasn't working. But it just needed a belt replacing, and now it's working again.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I liked it because it was a chip and some memory, and that was it. That was my philosophy of what a machine should have. I didn't like the Amiga so much because you had to learn how to program the video chip. But of course, the beauty of the video chip was it would actually ultimately do a lot of things that you couldn't do with just the CPU. So,
indeed.
But yeah, a lovely 68,000 processor. That was a joy to program.
So when you're going between all these different versions back then, obviously there was going from PC to Atari to Amiga. There was probably the fact that those, unlike the PC, you probably had less colours to deal with. So Steve, in the last podcast, Steve Ince was saying you were going from the PC version of a couple of hundred colours down to the Amiga, which was about 32. which is still fairly respectable, but you're making another big drop down. And then you've got all those other considerations. But in terms of actual code, I mean, would it still be like assembly language and you trying to get that to work with the different machines, or would it be something else?
Well, I mean, when we did Lure, which is the first one at Revolution, I mean, I think I led on Atari ST. So I was effectively writing the engine as in inventing it. So I was working I was writing 68,000 assembly code on a PC, squirting it down a wire into an Atari ST, and it was a pretty good way to work. The Amiga, we found someone who knew the Amiga bits, and we got this guy Charles Lawrence, he was called, and he helped us write the Amiga bits. So he did the sound chip and the video chip stuff for the Amiga versions of the games. Then the PC code was written like Dave Sykes, the other founder of Revolution. He would take my code, which is 68,000, and literally rewrite it in 8080 code, and that's how we did the Temptress. And then we did the same thing again for Beneath a Steel Sky, but by that point we dropped the Atari ST because it was effectively gone. But the Amiga was still alive. We did Amiga Steel Sky exactly the same way. Me leading on 68,000 code, Dave porting it across to 8080, which was horrible, ugly, nasty, dreadful alien chip. Really, really very unpleasant compared to the beauty of the 68,000. And then, of course, after Beneath a Steel Sky, when we moved on to Broken Sword, they said to us, no Amiga, and then they said, no assembly code, lads. You need to do C this time, given all the trouble it gave you on the last two games. So yeah, then it was C, and that was the end of assembly language.
So why was Amiga discounted at that point? Was that just because there wasn't much of a market for it, or just complexity?
I think it was gone. I think it wasn't. It shifted over to the PC. Well, PC, and the thing is the as we talk about a lot, the PlayStation 1 was on the horizon at that point, and that torpedoed everything. Well, all of the even the Amigas, PlayStation 1 did for Amiga what it did for adventures and PCs for a while. It was just like a huge explosion. It wiped out everything. It was like a nuke. It nuked the whole scene.
And ironically, now has just been announced Broken Sword 6. Yeah, ironically, all I can think about is this Broken Sword 1. Is it a remaster? It's not a director's cut because we've kind of had that, but it's more of a remaster of the original, from what I understand. So it's not a remaster of the director's cut; it's a remaster of the original.
It's a reforging.
It's a reforging. What does that mean?
What it is, it is basically take the old game, the PC version of the old game. Rework the engine. So it's got the core. The core of the old engine is still there, and it's been reworked to be, a modern to work like a modern engine, really. But it's really the original game's engine, which the director's cut wasn't, because the director's cut came from the GBA game via the DS, so that was a completely different code base. The Reforged is the original engine, beefed up and brought into the modern world of screens, bigger screens, and whatever, Windows and all Mac and all that stuff. And then the whole thing is being redrawn, and their messaging on this got a bit messed up with all that AI stuff they were talking about, but.
Yeah, AI is a bit of a loaded term at the minute, isn't it? No matter what it's actually used for.
Well, yeah. I don't think they handled it very well, really, because they gave the impression that it was heavily sort of, you say AI in this day and age, and people go, whoa, degenerative, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's fake. It's AI's fake.
Yeah, I mean, it means a lot of different things, and not all of it good. But in truth, they've got this learning model, and all it's doing is looking at George sprites, and it's trying to enlarge them better than Gigapixel could. And it's debatable, to me at least, from what I've seen, whether it actually does that any better than Gigapixel. But that's all they're doing. They're upscaling, and then real artists are redrawing it. So, I mean, there's a huge team of artists basically working on it to redraw it, and because there's no other way to do it. There's sprites were tiny, absolutely tiny little things, and the detail wasn't in them. If you can see a picture of George like doing an animation, picking something up or something, and his hands don't exist on that original sprite. It's too small. I mean, you think they're there, but it's and they're beautifully animated by Steve Odes, most of them in pixels, and so you get this great fluidity and a feeling of weight and all these things that he added to the animations, but the detail was never there. So to get an AI model that can invent those things from nothing is asking too much, really. I mean, you can kind of get the outline good, but you can't. It's not magic. It can't draw George's hands if George's hands weren't there in the first place, and then they weren't most of the time. So, it's been from what I can see, from what I understand, it's a hard slog of redrawing it. But you've seen the screenshots. I mean, it looks terrific.
It really does, and
it will be. Yeah, it will be really great.
It's kind of, as I would be playing it back in the day, how my mind would have reconstructed it. As in, yes, you couldn't identify each finger of his hand, but in your head you filled in the blanks. So you were happy with that. That was the best technology at the time. But now when you play it now, hopefully, and again, from the videos and screenshots I've seen, it looks authentic. It doesn't look like they've tried to reinvent the wheel and change the character design. They've been authentic. And yes, they've used AI. They've got it so far. And then they've got actual artists to put in all the finer details, which you definitely need because AI are terrible with fingers at the best times anyway.
It's effectively redrawn by hand. At the end of the day, it's redrawn by hand.
I mean, we had a fun discussion and an experiment, didn't we? Because you tried this with AI. What would Broken Sword look like outside the cafe if you got a 720p image? And it looked pretty good. You could tell there was some rough edges here and there, but in terms of adding a little bit more color information, particularly for anything where there was like a gradient, and just having a little bit more resolution, you could say, oh, hey, this could actually work.
Well, I think that stuff that I did with Gigapixel like 2 years ago was actually what kicked the whole thing off and where it came from. Now, Charles will not agree if
there's one for the panel.
Yeah, that's one for the panel. I'm saying it was, I thought of it first and tried to get Charles interested in it, and then he said no, and then there was a bit of a gap, and then suddenly they're doing it, So I think I take the credit for it, If it's really great, then I'll take the credit for it. But yeah, I mean, it's really great, really great. Broken Sword fans will be delighted. Yeah, it'll work on all the consoles and all these things, that it's been a challenge. I mean, you could put the original game onto a console and it would kind of look all right on a big telly, but not as good as it's going to look with this new one.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's an iPad version. Maybe I've got that wrong?
Of the Reforged?
Yeah.
There will be all versions, I'm sure.
Oh, good, because I would get the iPad version, because just like the touching on the display. It feels natural for a point and click.
They'll do iOS and PC and PlayStation and Xbox, I'm sure.
That will be awesome on my iPad Pro. I will love playing that. And yeah, there's Broken Sword 6. I'm sure it'll be okay, but I'm more excited about 1, and I hope 1 does well in this Reforged state, because then hopefully they'll do the same treatment with 2.
I think they will.
I hope so. And does raise the question, though, if they do the first 2, obviously then it goes into the 3D world of Broken Sword 3 and 4. What could you do with 3 and 4? That's a big head scratcher to consider, that one. You can't use AI for that one necessarily.
Or maybe you could, because you've got those poly models. But yeah, it'd be too big a job, because you'd have to pull everything out of it, and then the original engine, which was Blender for Broken Sword 3. No, Brender. B-Render. Yeah, B-Render. I think it was. Was it? Oh, no, it was Renderware. That was it. Broken Sword 3 uses Renderware. And obviously that doesn't exist anymore, so you'd have to, what would you do with the engine? What would you do with the graphics? You'd have to start again. And if you're starting again, why not do Broken Sword 7,
Yeah, indeed.
So I don't think there'll be anything new on those games. I think they're probably best kept as they are.
Well, thankfully they did also come out on consoles, so as long as you've got the original console, you can still play these games.
Yeah.
It's not, in terms of preservation.
They're not dead, are they?
No, certainly not. But, I mean, Broken Sword 1 certainly wasn't dead. I mean, that's been re-released on various platforms. There was the director's cut. But yeah, this Reforged looks really interesting. I'm very excited to see what it looks like when it comes out. So, full steam ahead for everyone involved with that, because it looks great.
Yeah.
But I guess we still hit the problem of the speech is still limited by the quality that was on the CD, as in those original, whether it was DAT tapes, have never been found, and that's probably been lost forever. Have they tried AI on the sound? There's a thought.
Well, I'm sure. I don't know anything about it, but I imagine they will. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot you can do with sound, I think, to smooth it out. I'm sure it's just a case of pushing it to the right people and have it put through a process to radically improve it. I would have thought it could be done more easily than graphics, I would have thought.
I mean, that was one of the nice things about the director's cut version, was they actually had the original music again in CD quality. But that was because the original composer had kept the CDs, thankfully. DAT tapes are harder to find. Trust me, I've had conversations with various people for other titles. Did the original DAT tapes still exist? I don't know. I gave them to this person and I've not heard from them. And then they've gone missing. And even if you had the original DAT tapes, the amount of work, because you wouldn't just get the dialogue that's in the game, you'd get all the outtakes and all the variations. So you'd have to piece it all together. So a lot of work.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we ever had the originals. I don't think we had what it was recorded from. I think it was sent to us from the publisher, and it was chopped up and 14.4, whatever it was. And I don't think we ever had anything beyond that. So, the files that we have are the ones in the game. I say we, Revolution. So yeah, but I'm sure they can push them through some AI and have it upscaled reasonably good. There's nothing else for it, is there?
Not really. Well, I'm glad, if it's true, that you spurred this momentum forward for Broken Sword Reforged Tony Warriner edition. I'm sure
I'm going to take the credit.
I'll take the commission as well.
even I don't think there'll be any commission. I'm so confident it's going to be great that I'll pre-take the credit for it.
Okay, that's good. I'll remind you of that when it comes out.
Let's do that.
Well, I'm confident. I'm quietly confident it's going to be good.
Especially on the iPad. It looks great.
So well done. And I'll look forward to seeing you and Charles Cecil on the panel in about a month's time. Otherwise, this is the end of Game and Gadget podcast. So thank you for joining me, Tony. And we'll see you again next time, folks. Take care.